WWE and TKO are continuing their quest of alienating as many fans as possible as we learned some big news on Sunday via the Twitter account of RTruth. He announced to the world that he has been released by WWE. His contract is on the verge of expiration, and WWE has informed Ron Killings that they would not be renewing his deal. This news shocked the wrestling world, and it has angered most of it. Most of the fans and even some of the company employees have tweeted out support and then deleted it, which makes you wonder if WWE is making them pull down any RTruth related tweets. This one shows just the ruthless nature of WWE now that they are owned by TKO. Being loyal to this company means nothing. Being an employee or a wrestler who's given decades of solid service doesn't mean shit. And we've already known this as we've seen over the last few years, massive internal budget cuts that have laid off a lot of employees that have been there their entire lives. So this is nothing really new in terms of modern WWE, but this specific release cuts pretty deep because of how beloved of a figure RTruth is. He is universally beloved by the wrestling audience. He's treasured by every single member of that WWE locker room and other locker rooms around the world. And even management and production love this guy. He's timeless. Normally, we wouldn't be sitting here pissed off at WWE for releasing a 53-year-old member of its roster. But in this case, you're talking about a guy who still effectively contributes to the entertainment value of the show. This is a guy who just had a match with the world champion and worldwide celebrity John Cena on national television 1 week ago. Here's the way they should have done it. They should have called RTruth into a meeting before Saturday night's main event. Truth, here's the deal. We're going to let your contract expire. You're going to be effectively released as a mainstream talent. I don't know why I'm talking like Triple H. But you're going to be effectively done as a main roster member going forward. We would like to, if it's okay with you, Ron, to sign you to a Legends deal where we can still pay you somewhat lucratively and you can make general appearances for us and still be a part of the WWE family. But we feel due to your age and how long you've been here that this is the direction we would like to move you into. And since you're about to have a match on Saturday night's main event with John Cena, why don't we make this a retirement match? What better person to end your career than John Cena? And what better stage to do it on than NBC on national television, where we can show the world maybe a recap package of what you've done and given to us here in World Wrestling Entertainment, and give him a send-off. And then if Truth is like, nah, man, I might be 53, but I got gas in my tank. I'm going to take my release and go to AEW, or I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to keep wrestling. Then that's his prerogative and his choice to do that. Or he can take the deal and say, hey, I understand. But I think another reason this is so shocking is that he's still actively wrestling. Like I said, match with John Cena on Saturday night's main event, and he did the job for JC Mateo on SmackDown, which I guess is going to turn out to be his last WWE match. Why didn't they just make the Cena match his last match? So it just feels like he could have been treated better, and it's just kind of a bummer that, nothing is sacred. So I'm not sitting here saying WWE should have inked this guy up to another 5-year deal worth a couple of million or whatever he was making per year. I'm not saying that. I understand the business side of this. But my God, WWE has the most absolute worst timing when it comes to this stuff. They never pick the right times to do it. And here we just got done seeing RTruth doing major TV angles just over the past 7 days. It would be one thing if 53-year-old RTruth has been benched and we haven't seen him on TV in 7 months. Then I would totally understand a release like this. But this is somebody who is actively contributing to when he appears on camera, whether it be in the ring or behind the scenes in a backstage segment, the crowd responds. The crowd reacts warmly. He still gets a reaction. He's valuable in that way. And I think when you are valuable in that way and you still contribute in that way, age shouldn't mean anything. So if there's one thing we understand as wrestling fans, it's that releases are a thing. both companies are going to let talent go in some form or another. Tony Khan tends to let his contracts run out and not re-sign them as well. Abaddon has left the company, I think, as of this week. And I saw people comparing the two. You know, was Abaddon on Saturday night's main event in the ring with John Cena? No, you can't. It's just false equivalencies out the ass to people who are even trying to pretend to defend this. It's not a matter of just releasing somebody or allowing their contract to expire. It's the contract they are letting expire, and more specifically, the way they are doing it. You know, that scenario I laid out, how hard would that have been for them to do that? Think of the mark and that would have made on that match, how we would have remembered it. It could have been so easy to do if they would have pitched that to RTruth and he accepted it. And for them to not at least immediately transfer him right over to a Legends deal, provided, again, RTruth would be okay with that, that's mind-blowing. So we don't know many details. I mean, I'm recording this really late on Sunday night, so by the time I drop this on YouTube on Monday, we might have more details. So maybe they did pitch him a Legends deal and he said no, but I don't think it was like that because he tweeted out in real time. I was just informed that I've been released by WWE. So, you know, based on his initial tweet, it doesn't sound like there was negotiations going on, or there might have been, or it doesn't sound like, you know, he was really pitched anything else. They just said, hey, your contract's coming up. You're going to be done. And they've done this to talents before. You know, it's part of it. It's really no big deal. I'm never going to be too outraged by this. But this one is really kind of upsetting. And it just goes to show you, you know, how little WWE thinks of us. And now that they're owned by TKO, it's even worse. And you're starting to see it. They're starting to be a major, major turnoff to their fan base. I think where, you know, UFC fans and stuff, you know, Dana White's a piece of shit or whatever's going on there with their internal stuff. Maybe the fans don't care. Where in WWE, I think it's, you know, they take a little bit more notice and they view this as something that is disrespectful. We go through hundreds of releases. We go through dozens of these per year. You know, there's a lot of them sometimes that don't make any sense, and there's a lot of them that make perfect sense. You know, so for anyone in the comments that's going to be immediately typing, pretending that I'm releasing this video with some form of outrage, and you're saying the initials AEW, you know, by the way, this is about Ron Killings and WWE. This has nothing to do with AEW. I put up this big tweet on Sunday just kind of referencing the entire situation, and you wouldn't believe how many people in the replies who their fingers just magnetically just go right to AEW. And I'm like, what do they have to do with this? They have nothing at all to do with this whatsoever, unless you're talking about just the context of releases in general. But the whataboutism is just off the fucking charts. You know, when AEW has situations like this, guess what? We talk about them. And WWE has these as well. Whenever either company has any sort of major release or defection or contract expiration or anything like that, we talk about it. Where was the outrage when AEW blah, 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 blah? I'm like, I don't know. When it happened, I probably talked about it. But that didn't happen today. RTruth getting released happened today. You fucking idiots. I swear they're all programmed the same damn way. Their brains just automatically, how can I make this about AEW and Tony Khan and how much I hate them? And then you go to their profile page and their banner picture is Tony Khan in an AI-generated clown suit, and their profile pic is another Tony Khan-related thing. They are all up on his dick. And I'm like, Jesus, all we're doing here is talking about WWE letting go Ron Killings. That's the subject of the day. I don't know what they have to do with this at all, but you'd be amazed how many people insisted on talking about them. I'm like, well, I think that's a little bit fucking stupid. In terms of today, it's a sad one. WWE lost one of its most beloved and entertaining characters. He was a big part of the comedic value of that show. And you think about how beloved RTruth is and how they let him go. However, a week ago on Raw, they made room for that shirtless comedian and his friend who has gone on record as calling us wrestling fans the R word. And now he's on Raw. So we're going to make room for him, a guy who hates us, and we're going to let go someone who loves us. Jesus fucking Christ. You know, I think TKO and WWE are going to continue to do this. This is going to be the way it is now. And you're going to see more and more how little they care about the fans. And if you get that narrative spread enough, you're going to see fans turned off by that product, especially if it sucks. We can put up with some of this shit if you're giving us the magic we got in 2023, and in a little bit of 2024 and some of that hot period that they were experiencing there. And, it's kind of cooled off a bit, but still doing very well. I think SmackDown had like 15,000 people in the building on Friday. So the numbers are there, but, during the Attitude Era, when they were riding that high, it took a while for those numbers to taper off, but they still remained, somewhat high. So, if WWE starts putting forth a really lackluster product creatively, and then you combine that with 2.5 hours of Raw and 3 hours of SmackDown, now you got 2 night SummerSlams coming up, you're going to water down your product to death. And that's where AEW needs to be as smart as humanly possible over there and try to not have any bad press themselves and see if they can keep their act together, especially creatively, or, if they hit some sort of a hot angle or a hot wrestler, which they have a bunch that, are kind of on the cusp there, especially if Moxley's run comes to an end, they could maybe capitalize on some of the fan disappointment in one company and maybe say, hey, maybe come see what we're doing over here. We're not as big of pricks as they are. Because if I was them, I would do the same thing. And WWE has shown, that they would do that as well with AEW, capitalize on the mistakes they made. Hell yeah, we'll bring CM Punk in, no problem. We can probably manage him. You guys can't. So we'll take him and then we'll rub him in your face. Oh, and while we're at it, we're going to counter program you at every turn. So that's what competition is all about. But in terms of what RTruth is going to do next, I have no idea. His contract is about to expire, which means there's not going to be any sort of no compete. He's free to make appearances anywhere. Maybe he's going to immediately start taking bookings, which he's going to be able to pull in high amounts for. So maybe he'll capitalize on that a little bit, take a little break, and then come back and maybe can work out something with WWE Legends-wise. I don't know why I'm so hung up on the Legends deal. I just thought that he should at least be offered that. But he might not want that. That might not be as lucrative as him making appearances because he's free to do that now and be able to charge a fairly substantial price. So he can probably still make a lot of money just making appearances and occasionally getting in the ring. Maybe he goes to GCW or something. Who knows what he will do? Or, he might kick back and retire. We will see. He might want to go out on his own terms, not in a match against Jeff Cobb on SmackDown. Maybe he wants to do something a little bit more substantial than that or satisfying than that. We'll see. But whatever he chooses to do, we wish him the best. RTruth has been around a long time. He came in as K-Quick back in like 2000. I was at one of those Raws where when he first came in, he was just there just a few weeks, and he was coming out rapping and said that the same tune to that song. And he's timeless in terms of his appearance. He still looks young and he looks very good. He does not look that different considering he's 53 years old. But when you do see him back then, I'm like, oh man, that kid was a specimen. He was so light on his feet, so young and so good. And then he left and he went to TNA to be champion there, became Ron the Truth Killings. And I remember a funny story. I went to a SmackDown in, I think it was Charlotte, and it was in 2003. I don't remember what year or what time of the year. I just remember it was sometime in 2003. And we went to the show and we're leaving, and as we're coming out, he is out there and he's got a bunch of his CDs. Now, I've never listened to any of Ron Killings' albums. I don't know what any of his songs were about. And I was like, oh shit, hey, what's up? And he goes, hey, and he hands me a CD. And I'm like, oh, thanks. He goes, that's my album. It's all about Vince McMahon. And so, I mean, I guess he was disgruntled. He's outside of SmackDown. He doesn't work for WWE anymore. He's outside of SmackDown, apparently hawking these CDs because I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. And then he goes, that's $10. And I'm like, oh, I thought you were giving me the CD. And it was really awkward. And I'm like, well, I don't have any cash on me. So here, I didn't realize he was selling them. He's like, here you go, man. And he just I'm like, oh, thanks. I thought it was just like a free CD from RTruth. But he wanted $10 for it. It was pretty funny. But then several years later, he would come back to WWE, and he's been there since what year did he come back? 2009 or something. So he's been going on 15 years minimum of his, latest run in the company. And he's provided us a lot of memories and a lot of moments. And I don't understand why WWE would not want to, cherish those. And send R-Truth off, in a way that is just a little bit more meaningful than like, psh, it sucks. But R-Truth was not the only one released. Can't forget about Carlito. He took his a lot better. He even joked that WWE is asking him to pay back the money he stole, I suppose referencing the big money contract that he had for doing virtually nothing. He came back at that Backlash event, right? Got the big pop, the crazy pop. And then when they re-signed him, they just immediately, just changed his theme and chucked him somewhere in a group, and he became just kind of an idiot. And they've decided to just cut ties with that. So I'm assuming that these guys aren't going to be on TV anymore. I mean, I don't know if they're going to bring Carlito back to TV to write him off. I doubt it. I think he's pretty much done. So he'll be done, and he'll be out of the Judgment Day faction. But he doesn't seem to be too heartbroken about it. Even joked that he'd come back in another 13 years. And he probably thinks it's pretty funny. I don't think Carlito really cares. He didn't really enjoy his first run there. I remember when he came back years later to help induct his dad into the Hall of Fame, he kind of made some sort of a joke on during the speech about how he was treated and whatnot. I just never felt like he gave much of a shit about the company. But he came back at Backlash. He got that pop. They reached out, I guess, or whatever was done, but they decided to bring him back, and it was just like a flop almost like immediately upon him returning. It was just like an immediate, like, oh, okay, Carlito's back, so what type of thing. But he's been really funny in the background of the Judgment Day, and I've always liked Carlito a lot, and I'm sad to see him go, but I'm also happy to see that this isn't something that's devastating his life. And in terms of R-Truth, when we're complaining about how this was handled, none of this is me worrying about R-Truth and his future. R-Truth has made a lot of money, and R-Truth financially is fine. His family is fine. So none of that worries me. I'm just talking about how WWE did it, how WWE went about it, and how WWE chose to end essentially the WWE career of a talent that has been there for that long, that has traces, that has ties all the way back to the Attitude Era. Think about that. He came in 2000 when the Attitude Era was thriving. That was 25 years ago. Who came in during that time period in WWE and is still there now? Name them in the comments. Holy crap. So I just wish that they could have come up with a better way to kind of close that one particular chapter of WWE. And I think he was kind of done a little bit dirty. But Carlito, luckily, he doesn't give a shit. So I don't feel too bad for Carlito. I just, as a fan of R-Truth and someone who just loves him, I just think he should have been done better. So we'll see if, maybe the fan outrage in this maybe convinces WWE to make this right somehow. I don't know. I don't know how all this works. I don't know how much of this was a Triple H call and how much of this was a TKO call, because, they must have just decided this. It didn't look like on Saturday Night's Main Event this was something they were thinking about. So whenever this decision was made was probably pretty recently. So does that mean TKO, the budget department, calls Triple H and is like, hey, you got to cut this much money in contracts? And then Triple H is forced to do it, and you've got 72 hours to do it? Is that how it works? In that case, you can't really totally blame Triple H. He's got to cut it somewhere. And who knows if there's more to come. Like I said, I'm dropping this on Monday morning. So there might be more releases coming. Hopefully not, but anyone else's contract who is nearly up, they might be on the chopping block. A lot of people are worried about Karrion Kross. I am not. I think WWE is purposely trying to get the fans rallying behind him with the "We Want Kross" or "Push Karrion Kross" hashtag. I think the more they kind of keep him off TV, but keep showing the signs in the crowd, the more they're trying to, I think, manufacture this online support for Kross to try to get him, something meaningful to do. And when he does finally start making his presence known on Raw again in some way or in matches, to hear that response and then build off that. So I think they're trying to do that, but I could be wrong on that. WWE might let him go too, but I hope they don't, because I think you got a chance with him. We did a watch along on Sunday And somebody brought up maybe doing a Karrion Kross and Logan Paul program. I would love that. You talk about getting the fans behind Karrion Kross. Holy crap. So let's hope we don't hear any more unfortunate releases or contract expirations on Monday or later on this week. And all the best to Ron the Truth Killings, and thanks for a hell of a run, man. You entertained the hell out of me. Everything you did was just enjoyable. He was someone that even in his heel run, even when they briefly turned him heel and right with The Miz and they fought Rock and Cena, you know, I mean, maybe except for that, every single time I've ever seen R-Truth on TV, you smile. You can't help but not smile. He's tremendous. And he supplied a lot of fans with years of entertainment. Like I said, the second run of his has got to be going on 15, 16 years. You know, think about if you're a 25-year-old wrestling fan right now. You've been watching him since you were 10. That's incredible. See, I'm older, so it's different for me. But, you know, if you're that age, like think about the chunk of your life that you have seen R-Truth on WWE TV. That's a long time, man. So that's a big deal to a wide portion of the wrestling audience, young and old. Know this guy, like this guy, and appreciate, you know, what he gives. Even at this age and where he is in his career, he is still bringing smiles to faces. Isn't that the whole point of WWE? Remember, Stephanie? We bring smiles to people's faces. Well, you don't, but you know who does? R-Truth. So all the best to R-Truth. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. I am uploading this because there are no plans tonight to do a post-Raw stream, so sorry for that. But we will be up here later this week, and we will talk about the big match, the triple threat, Money in the Bank, AJ Styles and CM Punk and El Grande. But Punk and Styles sharing a ring for the first time in 21 years, something like that. Pretty crazy. We will be here later this week to talk about that and predict Money in the Bank. So you guys have a good rest of your night. Enjoy Raw tonight, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.